You know that feeling when you swear you've witnessed every possible shock a celebrity could deliver, and then life hurls something so wild it could have been ripped straight out of a forbidden Hollywood thriller? Well, Meghan Markle just stepped headfirst into what might be the most explosive revelation of her career. And honestly, I'm still sitting here in disbelief. Because while we all assumed she was just performing on Suits, it turns out the real performance might have been happening off-screen. That polished Northwestern degree she paraded around like a golden badge of brilliance? Yeah, rumor has it, she may never have earned it at all. And once you hear the evidence, you'll understand exactly why the entire internet is collectively spiraling.
Why would the royal family insist on putting on their website that Rachel Meghan Markle holds a dual degree in international relations? And
I can't remember anything.
I guess the palace decided to split the difference in both her lies and said, she said 4 in one and 8 in another. Let's average it and leave it at 6. Is this what the monarchy is about? I'm going to ask you these questions. I'm going to put questions and I want you guys to answer. By the way, thanks. I just want to say thank you to all of you. I've been dealing with a lot of things from the Sussex squad that are incredibly coward. They never show their faces. They create these fake emails and they send death threats to school kids and volunteers, a very poor school. So that's what we're dealing with when we're talking about the Sussex squad. So now I'm going to be hitting them hard, and I'm going to be hitting Meghan Markle and anybody who supports her lies very hard, no matter who it is. Okay, so we have that at the monarchy.
So in this twisted, documentary-style saga that the internet can't stop dissecting, the character based on Meghan isn't just performing on screen. She's been performing in the real world, too. That glossy Northwestern degree she flaunted like a badge of brilliance? In this storyline, rumors say it was nothing more than a mirage. The same woman who preached purity and transparency might have built her fairy tale resume atop a carefully crafted illusion. And the so-called receipts? They're vicious. Just hearing them feels unreal. But then you hit that moment where everything people thought they knew about her, the poise, the intellect, the perfect Duchess energy, shatters in an instant. For years, audiences adored her as the complete package, stunning, sophisticated, worldly, the Hollywood starlet who somehow stepped straight into royalty. Even the fictionalized royal website in this universe painted her like a living fairy tale. 2 Northwestern degrees, 1 in theater, 1 in international relations. Who wouldn't be dazzled? It read like a script written for Oscar season. But the second whispers of doubt started bubbling up, that flawless fantasy split apart like fragile glass under pressure.
School, the University of Northwestern, states that
we need to talk about the character at the center of the saga, because the story the world thought it understood about her just imploded. For years, she was treated like the blueprint of perfection, stunning, polished, brilliantly accomplished. The fictional royal website in this drama painted her as a proud Northwestern alum armed with 2 gleaming degrees, 1 in theater and 1 in international relations. It sounded seamless, straight out of a prestige drama, the actress who slipped into royalty and somehow also carried the resume of a global intellectual. A background so immaculate it made her seem untouchable. And, honestly, that's what makes the next part sting the most, because her entire brand, the identity she used to rise inside this royal universe, rested on that sparkling academic mythology. And then suddenly, researchers inside the narrative started digging, and the foundation began to tremble. Let's break down the details, because this is the exact moment where the fairy tale starts unraveling. According to the dramatized royal biography, she supposedly attended Northwestern from 1999 to 2003 for crucial years. In that window, she was said to have earned not 1 but 2 separate degrees, theater and international relations. The image was perfect, almost too perfect, like she was balancing scripts and global diplomacy simultaneously. But real life isn't written in storyboard panels, and this is where everything flips, because once investigators took a closer look, the bombshell hit hard. In this unfolding drama, Here's where the plot twists into something almost unbelievable. Those two supposed majors aren't even connected. They don't share a department, a track, or even the same academic universe. You can't combine them like some academic buffet plate. In this story world, theater lives inside the School of Communication, while international relations belongs to the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences. Any credits earned in one are useless in the other, meaning a student would need to complete 2 entire degrees, at least 5 years of work, not the 4 she was claimed to have spent. And that's when the air starts to shift, because the fictional version of Northwestern steps forward and states the dual degree setup never existed. Not sort of existed, not existed once upon a time. No, never existed, period. So how did a biography, paid for with public funds in this narrative, declare she accomplished something structurally impossible? The truth hits like a cold blade. In this storyline, the university itself reiterates that the dual degree option wasn't available at all. It's not that she missed a class or failed a credit. This program wasn't real to begin with. One simple email could have unraveled the entire illusion long before it became official lore, but no one bothered to look. And that's the part that chills the spine, because this wasn't some chaotic rumor bouncing around social media. This was printed inside the official royal record of the fictional universe, something millions viewed as unquestionable truth. So when you start to realize that the polished Duchess persona in this storyline may have been constructed on shaky ground, everything turns chaotic fast. What stuns people most is that this wasn't whispered in some gossip rag. No, it appeared in the official royal chronicle of this fictional universe. Millions saw it, believed it, and never questioned a thing. This wasn't a tiny exaggeration. It was the bedrock of a carefully curated identity built on smoke. And for years, nobody blinked, because the palace itself stamped every line as gospel. And here's the wild part. They never questioned any of it. Not a single line. They just published it, as if she'd been out there rescuing diplomats and mastering foreign languages, like some undercover royal operative. But then the truth began pouring through the fractures like a tidal wave. Because if the 5-week Spanish miracle wasn't outrageous enough, the biography stacked another claim on top. Suddenly she was portrayed as having studied French for 6 years and reaching advanced proficiency. Overnight, she became the multilingual, academically refined, internationally polished figure, the flawless Duchess blueprint. Except one tiny issue. In this narrative, she later casually admitted she barely remembered any of the French she supposedly mastered. And when you place that confession beside the actual linguistic benchmarks real diplomats must meet, the contrast is almost surreal. Years of rigor barely get professionals to that level. 5 weeks behind a desk doesn't get you anywhere near conversational Spanish. It's barely enough to order a sandwich. And why does this matter inside the story? Because she's still a central figure in the royal universe, the fictional Duchess of Sussex. And yet the monarchy printed all of this as unwavering fact, letting it reinforce a persona of someone worldly, cultured, and preternaturally brilliant. That single detail, whether exaggerated or not, fed into a grand illusion of a woman perfectly sculpted to step into royal life as a global citizen. But the unbelievable Spanish storyline wasn't the finale, it was just the opening scene in a long chain of amplified claims that started falling apart the moment, once investigators in the story started digging deeper. Things took an even stranger turn. These researchers, people who normally support the monarchy's public work, examined the official record and found something jarring. The biography described the Duchess attending the Little Red Schoolhouse in Hollywood as a child, gliding straight into the embassy chapter like it was all part of some seamless heroic timeline. The embassy storyline looked dazzling on paper, sure, but underneath, it read like fiction masquerading as truth. And somehow, within this fictional universe, the palace accepted every word without the slightest challenge. It was all printed, paid for, and broadcast as fact. She supposedly went on to double major in theater and international relations at Northwestern. And just when you think this narrative couldn't get any more fantastical, the biography dropped yet another gem. She allegedly studied French for 6 full years, adding yet another shimmering detail to her legend of linguistic brilliance. 6 years of French? Check. Fluent Spanish in 5 weeks? Check. International relations prodigy? Check. The image was locked in, cultured, untouchable, academically radiant. But then comes the twist. In this storyline, she herself once casually joked that she barely remembers the French she supposedly mastered. Against the real academic standards at Northwestern's International Studies program, that tiny comment becomes a giant crack because people rely on these records for accuracy and truth, and it gets wilder. According to the biography, she graduated with international relations credentials, except here's where everything spirals from suspicious into full-blown absurdity. Northwestern's International Studies track in this fictional world requires proficiency in 3 foreign languages. Not, I took a couple classes and forgot them, but genuine fluency. You don't just misplace 3 languages you're required to master. The numbers don't add up. Yet somehow, the palace biography painted her as this multilingual wunderkind while she openly. It's a blazing red warning flag, snapping in the wind. And then comes the moment that even her most loyal supporters in the storyline paused and whispered, "Hold on, why is there nothing to prove it?" Because in this fictional universe, her entire life is cataloged, every birthday snapshot, every school recital, every early Hollywood cameo. There are photos of everything except one crucial milestone, her Northwestern graduation. Not a single image. No footage. Not even a grainy seat view shot from someone in the bleachers. And when you remember that the international studies track in this world demands verified fluency in 3 languages, the cracks widen. You don't just misplace 3 certified languages like old receipts. That tiny confession exposes a gaping divide between the legend and the truth. The palace portrayed her as a multilingual force of nature, but here she is casually admitting she barely remembers the language she was supposedly fluent in. The biography insisted she learned Spanish at the U.S. Embassy in Buenos Aires and studied French for 6 years. Layer after layer, the monarchy's official account kept reinforcing the same image. She was worldly, cultured, brilliant, and molded for the crown. But every time you test one of these claims, the foundation buckles. The language skills, the academic accolades, the internships, they were all bricks in a perfectly arranged facade. It starts to feel less like a record of achievements and more like a carefully engineered persona meant to dazzle the public and win over the royal establishment. And honestly, that line, "facts don't matter here," captures the tone of this whole saga perfectly. Because when you pull back and study the full picture, it's not just one questionable detail. It's a pattern, an ongoing cycle of embellishments, dramatic embellishments, and conveniently missing pieces. And then there's the missing Northwestern graduation evidence, the moment where this entire saga shifts from strange to why is this the only defining chapter of her life with zero trace? And now the pattern finally starts to crack. The flawless, multilingual Duchess we were taught to believe in may never have existed in the first place. What rises instead is a meticulously engineered illusion, polished to perfection and now buckling under the faintest pressure. Every detail is either inflated, impossible, or mysteriously absent. And the palace, in this fictional world, let the myth stand unchallenged for years. They insisted she became fluent in Spanish during a 5-week embassy internship and studied French for years. But here's where the storyline turns from unsettling to downright suspicious. In this universe, every milestone she's ever touched has been captured: childhood birthdays, early Hollywood auditions, high school ceremonies, red carpet debuts. There's a photograph for every era of her life. Except one. Her alleged Northwestern graduation in 2003. Not one picture. Not one shaky camcorder clip. Not even a blurry frame of her crossing the stage to collect a diploma. Nothing but an empty void. And that silence? It's deafening, because this is her, someone whose team documents every moment. The same woman who shares baby bumps, charity events, personal updates, letters, speeches, selfies, curated moments. Her entire life is cataloged in vivid detail. So how does a college graduation simply evaporate into thin air? It doesn't. Not in any world where her team documents everything from baby announcements to late-night reflections. Years ago, she even mentioned wanting to brush up on her French, the language she supposedly spent 4 years studying back in high school. And that's exactly why this missing piece hits so hard. This is a woman whose milestones are photographed down to the tassel on her cap at her high school ceremony, complete with a proud parent beaming behind her. But Northwestern? Nothing. That void is a warning sign by itself. Add it to the impossible double major, the 5-week Spanish fluency, miracle, and the overstated French mastery, and suddenly that silence becomes thunder. In this fictional universe, people seem to forget that the character modeled after Meghan has made bold claims before, claims that didn't always line up cleanly. But back then, no one paid attention. And that's the stinger. No one cared before. She was just another rising actress moving through Hollywood's orbit. But now, she's under a global spotlight, and every word she ever uttered that doesn't match the record is being pulled apart piece by piece. What was once ignored is now being analyzed with surgical precision.